It's been more than a century since these original editions of Mark Twain's work were published. Now, Twain is back in print, a ghostwriter in a manner of speaking. Martha Teichner explains.
Samuel Clemens was already pretty famous and rich when this story begins. Better known by his pen name, Mark Twain. He'd moved his family into a brand new 25-room mansion in Hartford, Connecticut.
This is probably Mark Twain's favorite object that was in the house.
And as Deborah Petke, former executive director of the Mark Twain House and Museum, told me in 2005, his young daughters, Susie and Clara, demanded nightly stories.
His daughters insisted that he tell a story based on the objects that were lined up on the mantelpiece.
It seems Twain thought enough of one story, he told them in 1879, that he jotted down notes for a possible book.
Here's the manuscript, 16 small pages in his handwriting in pencil. He's written Oleomargarine.
But somehow the tale of a prince named Oleomargarine, kidnapped by giants, and his would-be rescuer, a boy named Johnny, was put aside unfinished. It languished for 132 years.
So it starts, widow dying, gives seeds to Johnny.
Until 2011, when John Bird, doing research among the Twain papers at the University of California, Berkeley, for of all things, a Mark Twain cookbook, spotted a file marked Oleomargarine.
It was a packet with the manuscript, and somebody had written on the top of it a burlesque fairy tale of no use. But I decided, I said, well, it's not food, but I'll read it anyway.
And what did you think?
I was astonished.
A previously unknown Mark Twain manuscript. Bird, a noted Twain scholar, had hit the academic jackpot with his discovery. But there's more to this story.
All they were willing to tell us was that the project involved Mark Twain. They wouldn't tell us anything else until we said yes or no. So this, off the bat, is the most unusual entry into a project that we've ever had.
Philip Stead and his wife Erin are stars in the world of children's books. They live and work in rural northern Michigan. Their very first effort together won the prestigious Caldecott Medal.
We were asked to complete this story. We were asked to fill in the gaps. So that began the most difficult and most terrifying 3 years of my life.
Why terrifying and why difficult?
Terrifying because it's Mark Twain.
Not exactly the elephant in the room, although there is one in the final book, one of many talking animals who befriend the boy Johnny. The Steads had to figure out how to collaborate with a curmudgeonly and long-dead literary icon.
I have to draw, honestly, I have to draw like myself. However, I was trying to impress Twain. I think Phil and I both felt like there was a ghost in the studio.
When Philip hid himself away in a cabin on an island in Lake Michigan to work on the manuscript, Twain seemed to show up too.
Those early conversations I was having with Twain were often arguments about what was going to be left in versus what had to be taken out.
And did he reply?
He often replied to me, and he was not always friendly.
Instead of just channeling him, Stead turned him into a character in the story.
If he had put something in his notes and I didn't like it, I was allowed as a collaborator to have my say, but he needed to be allowed to have his say as well.
Out of Twain's 16 pages of notes, they've crafted a 152-page book that's ruffled some Twain purists, in part because the boy, Johnny, is not white.
Yeah, he's modeled after a friend of mine who is black, and his kid who is black and white. But there is maybe something about the way I see him that is a little universal.
Would Twain have done that in 1879? On the cover, he got top billing, but the Steads, being alive, had the last word. The Steads still have Twain on the brain. Even though the book is out and they have a new baby, they thought by now Mark Twain would be exiting their lives. But
If you have a house guest live with you long enough, they start to take on an element of family. You'll love them and they'll irritate you in all the ways that family does. And so I think a piece of Twain, I think, will be with us forever.